Hi guys, it's Natalie. Welcome back to the Ezra Project blog, and we're going to continue going over an amazing book called Built to Last and start debunking some of the 12 myths that they discovered about organizational strategy. Now, to give you a little bit of an idea on how I feel about myths, we thought that we would provide you a little visual of one. Let's say this guy right here. He's a myth. People sometimes tend to like myths. They comfort us, they make us feel good about ourselves. I think that myths actually ends up hurting people, and I hate it. I hate lies. I hate it when people get discouraged. I hate when they listen to something that maybe sounds comforting and is an instant quick fix, but ultimately the only thing that it does is that it crushes their soul. I hate myths. So, we're going to talk about organizational myths and things that might be crushing the soul of your ministry right now, and how we can actually take real steps forward in helping you to build a healthy and thriving ministry. And this one's a nasty little bugger because it's really a dream killer. That is the myth that you need to have a great idea in order to start a business, or in our case, a ministry. Now, what does this book mean by great idea? They actually use the examples of two companies, Hewlett and Packard and Texas Instruments. And let's go to Texas Instruments, which is the comparison company, which was initially started in order to exploit an excellent opportunity in an extremely lucrative field, oil. Texas Instruments was the first independent company to make reflection seismograph surveys of potential oil fields, and its Texas labs developed and produced instruments for such work. On the other hand, you have our visionary company, Hewlett and Packard. They actually start a solid 7 years after one of their major competitors, Texas Instruments. And it was founded by essentially a couple of kids. They had barely graduated with their degrees in engineering, and they had no idea what they were doing. All they wanted to do was build a company around the broadly defined field of electrical engineering. And for that first year, they just kind of messed around and did everything. They built urinal flushing machines. They built fat reduction machines, which probably didn't work. But they just really kind of tooled around for a couple years. So here's the question. How did Hewlett and Packard become one of the most visionary companies that this world has seen in comparison to Texas Instruments, who started off so strong with such a fantastic idea? What set these guys apart from these? It actually all goes back to one very basic concept. Texas Instruments, because it started with a great idea, they locked themselves into one particular specific market opportunity. They couldn't get past that idea. And when the market and when the technological field began to move on, they began to get left behind. And the Built to Last books say this pretty specifically, because this is not just one isolated incident. This happens a lot. And they say, if you equate the success of your company with the success of a specific idea, as many business people do, then you're more likely to give up on the company if that idea fails. And if that idea happens to succeed, you're more likely to have an emotional love affair with that idea and stick with it too long, when the company should have been moving vigorously on to other things. The researchers of this book had this insight, and they go on to make two startling claims. The first being that their visionary companies put a large dent in the widely held mythology of corporate origins, a mythology that paints a picture of a far-seeing entrepreneur founding his or her company to capitalize on a visionary product idea or visionary market insight. And this is fascinating. This is fascinating that this is a myth, because often we see with great ideas explosive entrepreneurial success. This is because great ideas, as awesome and powerful and world-changing as they might be, often fill a temporary void. In fact, the researchers of Built to Last, what they found, in short, we found a negative correlation between early entrepreneurial success and becoming a highly visionary company. This is what they're saying. They're saying if you want to build an amazing business or ministry, you need to set a strong foundation, and that often early entrepreneurial success means that you don't have the foundation in order to support the weight of all the things that are going to come hitting with you if you hit it so early. You need to build a foundation that's going to get you past the ideas of having youth nights, small groups, social clubs, sports games, things that actually work. They're good ideas, but our culture is moving so fast that what your ministry is built on needs to endure past those changes. Need more proof? Okay. Let's go to Catholic tradition and check out this rather obscure mendicant order called the Franciscans. The Franciscans were started by Saint Francis, but he did not start off with this idea to build the international, world-changing religious order we know and love today. Francis's idea gradually grew over the course of many years. And you might think maybe it started when he was very early in his stages of ministry, still in his early 20s, really, when he hears a locution from God saying, "Francis, go and repair my church, which you see is crumbling into ruin." And Francis thought that this was the literal rebuilding of a small church out near his hometown. But later, years later, after he spends a lot of time working on building what was a literal church, he begins to discover that God is calling him on to something more. But even then, God still is slowly drawing him into this idea for this order, including he was one day sitting in Mass and he hears the gospel message about Jesus sending out his disciples and that they are to be sent out without any extra supplies, no staff, no extra coat. And this gospel message inspires Francis so much that he literally rushes out after Mass and he's giving away all of his things, finds the ugliest, poorest woolen brown cloak that he can find, which ultimately becomes the Franciscans' classic religious habit. But he chose it because only the poorest of the poor would wear that type of clothing. And even then, that's not the beginning of the religious order. It continued to grow and develop over the course of many years. He didn't have this grand idea starting out with. It was a slow, gradual process in which he built a strong foundation year after year after year after year, so that it could continue to grow and thrive well beyond after his death. So take courage. The key, don't build your ministry on a single great idea. They are tools. They are not the foundation for your ministry. Instead, your focus needs to be on the mission. In Built to Last, every single one of those 18 visionary companies, their focus wasn't necessarily on their products. It was on their mission. What they had done was that they had shifted their thinking so that they saw the organization as their ultimate creation. We suggest that the continual stream of great products and services from highly visionary companies stems from them being outstanding organizations, not the other way around. Translated into ministry terms, what this means is that you are committed to the mission and to the organization that serves it. And you are going to do everything that you can in order to make sure that your people are cared for, that they're trained, that they're formed, that they're able to think on their feet and be able to develop those kind of ideas that would help that mission move forward. I don't want your ministry to be a shooting star, that they just start off with so much power and enthusiasm and early entrepreneurial success, and it's just this beautiful blaze of glory that gets cut short, hard, and fast. I don't want what God is calling you to be short, fast, and temporary. Take it slow and build something that is going to last. All right, that's it for this week, but I would really like to hear from you. First, what do you think of the idea of starting a ministry without a single great idea? Comment below. Would love to hear your thoughts and discussions. And also, too, don't forget to like the Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube, pray for me, and know I'm praying for you. And I'll see you next week. God bless, guys.